What's going on, gardeners? It's Sunday, June 19th, and it is a gorgeous evening here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina. Today, I'm going to show you one of my top secrets to have healthy, productive fruit trees that you should be doing right now in your garden. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated. And my secret to growing healthy and productive fruit trees is a very simple concept that most gardeners actually fail to do, and that is simply spreading compost underneath all of your fruit trees at certain times of the year. It really is that simple. However, there are a few things that you need to know before you attempt this procedure to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. The first thing you need to understand is why you want to spread compost around the base of all your fruit trees. And the way I see it, there are three benefits that compost has. The first benefit is compost will act sort of like a mulch of sorts. And right here, I pulled back the mulch that was around my fig tree, and you'll see there are surface roots all over the place that grow along the surface. And compost, when you place about an inch or two of compost down, that will help insulate the roots, not just from the cold, but also from the heat and the strong sun of the summer, and it will help to maintain moisture in your soil during dry spells. So putting that compost layer down is very beneficial because it partially acts as a mulch. It is not a complete substitute for a mulch because weeds can still grow in a compost layer, and mulch will work better for overall retention of moisture. So you still want to have a mulch layer on top. However, the compost is a critical additive for benefit. The second benefit of mulch is it adds a tremendous amount of organic matter to your soil. When I first moved here about 4 years ago, this was a recently clear-cut lot that I had a new house built on, and as a result, the native dirt here was basically all sand. It was very low in organic nutrient content. Over the years, I have transformed this crummy, sandy soil into this rich, black, deep loam. Just look how loamy all of that is there. You can see all the surface roots that are running all along the surface, and that organic matter is what makes my plants so very happy. It's very important that you add organic matter strategically throughout the season, and compost is a great way to accomplish that. And the third reason why you want to add compost is for fertilizing your plants. Compost is rich in both macronutrients and micronutrients that will feed your tree slowly throughout the year and help them become big and strong. Now that we've discussed why we want to add compost, let's discuss what are the best types of compost to add. And the best compost to use in your garden and for your fruit trees are the compost that you can source locally and affordably. While it's okay to go to a big box store and get the big name national brands of compost, they're usually pretty pricey, and you can get a lot of better deals nearby. This is a place called Seaside Mulch that is local to my town. It's in Wilmington, North Carolina, and they provide bags of locally made cow manure compost to my local Lowe's. So I'm able to go to Lowe's and get bagged up compost. So it is incredibly convenient for me. It's also half the price of the national brands. However, if you don't have this luxury, you can always call around to landscaping yards that sell locally made compost and mulch, and you can always order some for delivery, which is usually a lot cheaper than going to the store. Now, regardless how you source your compost, it doesn't really matter the type of compost that you get. It doesn't matter if you get a manure-based compost, a mushroom-based compost. All that matters is that the compost is fully composted. It should be odorless. You can't use compost that has not fully broken down because it could actually burn your plants, and it can rob nitrogen from the soil and actually take nutrients from your plants and slow them down. And the way you verify that your compost has in fact been fully composted and is fully broken down and ready for use is to actually smell it. And especially when you use manure-based compost, this is really easy because it should just smell like dirt. And that's what this smells like. It smells like soil. There should be no raw chunks of manure in there, and it should be basically odorless. So if you're just happy with the way it looks, and it clearly just looks like broken down dirt, it is now ready for use. Now let's discuss when you want to apply your compost. For most deciduous trees and deciduous fruit trees, like these figs that I'm growing right here, you want to apply your compost twice a year. I like to apply my compost about 2 weeks or so right before my last frost date in early spring. And the reason why I like doing that is because your fruit trees are going to start waking up shortly after last frost. They may actually start budding out a little bit before then. So I like to place it down to give the trees everything they need to come out of dormancy very quickly. Then I like making a second application in the very beginning of summer or very end of spring. So for me, that is late June, somewhere around the 4th of July holiday. That's generally when you want to apply your second placement of compost. And all of that nutrients that you place in that compost will break down slowly throughout the summer and feed the trees continuously throughout the year. And that's usually enough to get them into the fall. Now, for your deciduous trees, you don't really want to apply any more applications of compost after that. And that's because you actually want the trees to go into dormancy during the fall and into the winter. And if you give them too much fertilizer too late into the year, you can actually keep them in a growth phase and they'll develop tender growth that could be killed by frosts and freezes. So that's why this is going to be my last application of compost for my deciduous trees like these figs here. Now, when it comes to evergreen trees, if you're growing something like citrus trees where the fruits ripen in the winter, or you're growing like an avocado tree that flowers in the winter, or you're in a place that doesn't get frosts or freezes, you can apply another application probably sometime in September, because you need to keep the nutrient train going to keep them producing and keep them growing, since you don't have a tree that will go to sleep on you. But for the deciduous trees, it's actually fairly important to cut them off in the early summer. Now let's discuss how much compost to apply per tree. Now here I have a grand total of 6 fig trees, and I have 2 bags of compost that I'm going to use to fertilize all 6 of them. Each bag of compost is 1 cubic foot of compost. So basically I have 1 bag right there, and that is going to do these 3 fig trees right there. Then I have 3 more fig trees over here that are going to get 1/3 of that bag over there. And I generally find that that is enough to spread around the base of the tree. If your trees are larger than this, you may want to split a bag of compost between 2. If you have a massive tree, like something that is fully mature and 10-20 feet tall, you may need multiple bags of compost if it's a monster tree. Now for an optional step. If you wish, and I think this is highly beneficial to supercharge your trees, you can throw down a couple of handfuls of an organic granulated fertilizer. So right now I just have this Job's organic tomato plant food, but any kind of organic fertilizer that is around a 5.55 NPK will be just fine. So if you choose to apply this fertilizer, you want to apply it before you put the compost down, because you want it to sit underneath that compost layer. And these organic fertilizers are precursors to compost. They are not immediately bioavailable to your plants. They have to be broken down and consumed by the native soil microbiology. So this feeds your soil very well. So I'm simply going to go to each fruit tree and I'm going to throw down 1 handful, 2 handfuls in about a circle with an 18-inch radius. And that is going to help supercharge the compost throughout the season. Now that we've placed the organic fertilizer around the bases of all of the trees, I'm going to break this bag into thirds and place the compost around all of the tree bases. Now that we've placed the compost at the base of the tree, we need to spread it. And it's very important that when you spread the compost, you remember you actually want to spread it around the root area of the tree. And remember, the roots actually come out here and out here. They don't want to have the fertilizers placed right up against the trunk. In fact, that is detrimental because this compost is going to decompose, and if you have rotting organic matter up against the trunk of your tree, you can actually cause trunk rot. So you actually want to spread this away from the tree. Now, how far you want to spread it depends on how big your tree is. So for a tree of this size, I'm going to go with a circle with a radius of about 12 to 18 inches. If it is a larger tree, you may want to go 2 to 3 feet. If it is a huge tree, you may want a 3 to 5 foot radius. So you really have to look at the tree itself and look at where most of the roots are. And most of the roots for a tree this size is going to be right around here. So that's why I'm going to spread the compost in that 12 to 18 inch radius circle, keeping it away from touching the trunk. And that right there is exactly what you want to see in a tree that size. That is a perfect compost circle. Now I'm going to go around to all of my other trees and do the same thing. Now the compost has been spread in a circle around the base of all of my trees. And you'll notice that along each tree, the compost is never touching up against the trunk. And again, that's because we're trying to prevent that whole trunk rot issue. You want to make sure that you spread it in a very neat and orderly circle around where the roots are, because remember, you're trying to fertilize the roots. You are not trying to fertilize the trunks of the trees. Now that all of the compost has been placed, all we're going to do is pull the mulch back and cover up that compost, and then we're going to water it in very well to help facilitate the decomposition process and begin the breakdown of the compost and the organic fertilizer we placed underneath. And that right there is one of my secrets to having healthy and productive fruit trees. Now, I know that this seems really obvious and almost too simple, but the fact is that trees really only need 4 things to grow: food, air, water, and sunshine. And if they get all 4 of those things, they will quite literally grow themselves. Just for whatever reason, people tend to skip this step. And I'm telling you right now, do not skip this step, because it really is the difference between an okay year and a fantastic year. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you're notified when we release more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I use in my garden, they are all linked down below in my Amazon storefront link in the video description. And while you're there, check out my Spreadshop link for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video.
And Dale had his anti-nausea meds. He did so well in the car. He was such a good boy.
He sure did.
He was so good all the trip, except for that one little incident.
We
That one
will
little
not
pee incident.
speak of that incident.
Oh yeah, there was that. But other than that, he was just so good on his first vacation.